So we're here at the Epista Networking Day for Life Sciences, and the day's been spent talking about data integrity and the concerns that customers have and the concerns that customers should have about ensuring data. My perspective is from a vendor perspective who's been delivering cloud-based solutions. And cloud adds some new things that people need to worry about. But primarily the first thing is that when you're dealing with cloud vendors, you need to treat them the same as you're dealing with general suppliers. People who are delivering solutions to your environment as a customer need to be controlled and need to be looked at in the same way that you would typically be looking at suppliers anyway. But the thing with cloud is it brings some changes and it brings some challenges. A lot of people are worried about cloud and effectively where their data sits. And I think the one thing I'd say there is that generally with cloud provision, your data just isn't anywhere and you don't know. You can always work with your providers, with those vendors, to actually ask them and make sure that that data is in a location that's suitable for yourself. So it's something that should be part of that discussion with the vendor. Can they support making sure that your data is actually in the right place? The next thing around cloud is that you need to ensure that the data is secure. And security is provided in several ways, but the key one is around encryption. To make sure that the data is actually being housed and actually being encrypted, as well as being encrypted as it's transmitted across the internet. You want to make sure that both levels of encryption are actually in place and that that can actually be tested and you can assure and get confidence in that. It's very critical to make sure that when you work with those vendors, they have a good perspective around the controls they have in place as a vendor. So you really want to be doing the same sorts of things you'd be doing with other vendors around making sure they have a quality management system in place. Quality management is important to make sure they're managing their environments, managing their development processes and managing their infrastructure in the right way. So again, QMS is pretty critical to making sure that you can be successful. One of the other areas I think that people need to look at is what experience does the vendor have. It's a new field. You've probably only had cloud vendors available maybe for the last 5-10 years at most. So experience is going to be important because you're going to need to work with customers who understand the business environment. It's not just data that we're dealing with. This is business critical data, especially when it comes down to regulatory controls that are in place. So you need to think about how you can actually trust that vendor, what experience that they have in this space. I think the last thing about trust is something that you really need to think about. It's a long-term relationship you're going to build with these vendors. How can you actually build a level of trust? And one of the key areas there is to actually look at what certifications do they have, what accreditations do they have for their environments or for their quality management processes. There's a lot of standard security certifications that they should be adhering to, but they really need to be following the trend. So things like the upcoming EU GDPR regulations, it's going to be important that they're preparing their position around that particular regulatory framework. Likewise, they need to understand how they're going to manage those environments. So things like SOC, Type 1, Type 2 environments are important to have in place and give you the ability to see the outcome and see the reports from those so you can actually do your assessment as a customer to ensure that you can trust that vendor and you can work with that vendor over many years. But one of the key things as well from a vendor perspective is when you buy into this, you're probably buying into it on a subscription basis. It's going to be a short period of time for that subscription. It might be a year, it might be more. But that means that vendor's going to have to work hard to actually stay with you. That means you're going to get a lot of attention from the vendor. So work with vendors who are prepared to engage on a long-term relationship. Work with vendors who actually have the certifications in place and give you that ability to trust them.